So, holy shit. I have now seen Spider-Man No Way Home. This video is going to have a spoiler-free section and a spoiler-full section, so don't worry if you haven't seen it yet, and if anything I describe sounds like a good time to you, and I know this option isn't available to everybody watching this right now, so apologies, but I would recommend seeing this as blind as you can. That is to say, the opposite of what I did. See, here's the story. I'm generally extremely anti-spoiler. Don't like being spoiled, do my best to facilitate unspoiled experiences for other people when I had a good first experience with something, and in select cases, I go as far as to consider how a movie's getting reviewed as a spoiler. And I'm saying that because it's relevant to this story, not because I think everyone should follow that. Now, I didn't hate Homecoming or Far From Home when I saw them, but after I got out and started thinking about them, I was really disappointed with how little MCU Spider-Man was like Spider-Man, or real Spider-Man, or, if I'm feeling particularly entitled, my Spider-Man. Yeah, I'm one of those. I grew up on Tobey and got very invested in Andrew back in the day, so when the thing everyone wanted happened, when Spider-Man joined the MCU, it was great to see this version of the character surpass those versions in some ways, but it was all the more a letdown for it to fail to live up to them in other ways, some small, some utterly integral. I think Tom Holland's performance is excellent, and it always has been, but I didn't like that Peter was a billionaire's golden boy instead of a working-class hero. I didn't like that his tech, his powers, and his character arcs were so tied to Iron Man, a character I like, but not as much as Spider-Man, from a movie I really like, but not as much as Spider-Man. I didn't like that the core principle of Spider-Man, that with great power there must also come great responsibility, was nowhere to be found, even thematically. Boy's irresponsible as hell and went unpunished for 2 movies. So then rumors and leaks started appearing for No Way Home, which, I'll remind you, happened hot on the heels of Spider-Man almost unceremoniously exiting the MCU, which, at that point, I honestly would have welcomed. Is that a hot take? I don't know. And so for once, I didn't care about spoiling this movie. A movie I was probably gonna see, but wasn't invested in. And because of the content of these rumors and leaks, I was very curious about this new movie. So I read them all. I read dumb rumors like that John Bubniak, the original and only acceptable face model for PS4 Spider-Man, would appear. I read less dumb rumors like a comprehensive plot synopsis that leaked back in late 2020, a year before the movie released, and turned out to be entirely accurate. And those leaks kept it coming all the way up to the last few weeks before the movie released. I spoiled this movie hard enough to write a Weird Al song about it before seeing it. So when I did see it, the surprise reveals were not surprises. At best, they were confirmations. So this movie wasn't going to do anything I didn't expect, right? Except it did do something I didn't expect. It fixed MCU Spider-Man. All of it. Every single thing I said earlier. I didn't like that Peter was a billionaire's golden boy instead of a working-class hero. Fixed. I didn't like that his tech, his powers, and his character arcs were so tied to Iron Man. Fixed. I didn't like that the core principle of Spider-Man, that with great power there must also come great responsibility, was nowhere to be found. Fixed. All of which is utterly unbelievable to me. Does it make me want to go back and see Homecoming and Far From Home more than I did before? No, not really. Does it make me actually excited for future entries in this series? Hell yes it does. In fact, it makes me scared that Tom Holland's gonna quit. I get it, man. Go have a life. You don't owe anybody anything, but we just got there, and I would really like a trilogy of this kind of Spider-Man. Alright, that sounds like a good note to end the spoiler-free section on and start talking some spoilers, doesn't it? Cool. This is me nattering on for 10 more seconds, so you have time to close the video. You know, I'd recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's really fun to be surprised by stuff. I would alright, let's talk, huh? Tobey and Andrew, oh my god. It was so ambitious of them to try and keep that a secret. Did they succeed? Not for people like me, or even really anybody I know, but so many people see these movies. They're Marvel movies. This had to have surprised a good portion of people. So the restraint to not even imply it's gonna happen in the trailers, beyond, you know, the presence of the multiverse villains and maybe that you're not Peter Parker, that's it. That's crazy. I can't help but wonder the kind of merch dollars they gave up by not having Tobey and Andrew toys ready to go. And all in service of moments like this. This happened when I saw it. Andrew took the mask off and people behind me screamed. It was unlike any reveal I can remember seeing in theaters. Maybe because I knew it was coming and so I was more conscious of other people's reactions. Like, I think cap-wielding Mjolnir is a hugely historic moment in cinema, and I don't remember how other people around me reacted. I just remember I was shocked. When Yoda showed up in Last Jedi and was actually a puppet, my face looked like this the whole time he was on screen. No idea what was going on around me. Well, why would I be paying attention to anything other than Puppet Yoda? But hearing other people freak out about Spider-Man, my favorite superhero, turned out to be an addicting high, and I spent the night after seeing it watching videos of theater reactions. So they did do Tobey and Andrew, and to a lesser extent, they did do Charlie Cox Daredevil and Tom Hardy Venom, and those were both fun scenes. The reaction to Charlie Cox was also great, and the punchline to the scene is fantastic. But holy shit, Tobey and Andrew, they didn't just bring them into cameo at the end, they got screen time. They got to tie off threads from previous movies. If Andrew never shows up again, I hope he does, I hope they both get new solo stuff, but if he never does, this is a really nice ending for him. And I said before I saw it that Tobey's story already felt resolved to me. It did, and it does, but this is a really nice epilogue. And they pulled it off with Norman and Otto, so it feels like a great new ending. Same with Max. It felt out of character for Peter to kill Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2 without any hint of remorse, so the new way their relationship is resolved is super appreciated. It genuinely adds to what we had before in a meaningful way. And to take a step back there, the whole premise, saving the villains. I made a whole ass video essay about that, and about how much it matters to me that Spider-Man tries to save his villains. About how the MCU seems ambivalent to the point of psychopathy about deciding people are irredeemable and then dispatching them with unsettling glee. They went and made a Spider-Man movie not just about saving the villains, redeeming them, helping them, but they decided to make it about retroactively redeeming all the villains we've seen before that he previously was unable to save. Alright, most of the villains he was previously unable to save. R.I.P. Raimi vs. Eddie and Harry and MCU Quentin Beck. Always in our hearts. So, yeah, it changes previous movies in a way that isn't necessary exactly, but in my opinion isn't annoying or unnecessary, and is absolutely in line with what Spider-Man across the board is all about. And how about Aunt May dying? Let's talk about that. Is it weird that we still know nothing about Tom's Uncle Ben besides the fact that he definitely existed? Yep, Tobey and Andrew talked about him and he was just like, does giving that moment to Aunt May instead of Uncle Ben turn it into a fridging? Yeah. But holy shit, after 2 movies, 5 if you count Civil War and Avengers, never mentioning with great power comes great responsibility, to deliver the line, accurate to the wording of the Voltaire quote in the original comic, I might add, entirely in earnest and without undercutting it with a joke, it's kind of amazing. It's very out of character, and it's very appreciated. And also amazing was the degree to which they nailed Tobey and Andrew's presence in the movie. My theory before seeing it was that they are trying to turn Spider-Man into one cohesive series with a shared climax, a series that is 8 movies long, or anywhere up to 14 long, depending on what you include. I wasn't sure it would work, because that's a crazy thing to attempt, and last time somebody tried it was Rise of Skywalker. Or Endgame, I guess. Endgame worked, but it did work. This succeeded at being the movie that turned me around on MCU Spider-Man, and also an appropriate justification to resurrect Raimiverse characters whose arcs were presumed resolved and write them a new ending. And also a satisfying bow to tie on the previously unresolved Amazing movies that got cut short. And also a really fun multiverse movie where I got to see all 3 Spider-Man and villains from movies I love interact in hilarious and touching and fantastically affecting ways. They do go back to mentioning the electric eels more than I would like, but gotta be careful where you fall was killer. Speaking of being careful where you fall, Andrew, that's an awful segue, but Andrew saving MJ and the way he reacts afterwards was the closest the movie got me to crying. Tobey and Andrew's back thing might be my favorite scene in the movie, just for being the movie going, yeah, we've got time for this. And I honestly can't believe I've made it this far without saying it, but they hug. The 3 Spider-Men hug. It's really adorable and touching and emotional and kind of beautiful. There's obviously a few meta interactions. You've got a reference to the Iron Man Jr. criticisms, Andrew having a moment where he's decided he's lame and Tobey telling him he's amazing. seems to be referencing those movies being the most dismissed. Ned hearing about what happens to Harry is made funnier by knowing that Ned Leeds was the Hobgoblin in the comics. And the great responsibility scene between the three Spideys is, besides being almost exactly like the scene after Uncle Aaron dies in Spider-Verse, kind of them telling him how to be Spider-Man. But then you've got scenes with potentially accidental meta layers, like when Tobey stops Tom from killing the Goblin with his own glider, which, by the way, holy shit, the main thing they're doing there is letting Tobey redeem himself for having let Norman die. But in the moment, what it felt like to me was Tobey saying, "We don't do that." And yeah, Tom's on a violent revenge path, he's clearly lost control, but he's also, a little bit, doing what an MCU character would do. The MCU generally is not anti-revenge, but Spider-Man absolutely is anti-revenge. So again, to my great surprise, this movie does a lot of things that make it a great Spider-Man movie. Not least of which is the ending. Tom giving up his friends? Brutal. Grieving his dead aunt with no one to talk to but Happy, who doesn't even remember him? Brutal. And getting a crappy apartment where we see that he's made his own suit, a suit which looks incredible and I can't wait to see up close and clearly. Frankly, astonishing. I really can't believe they ended this movie on him really, truly, in even my eyes, becoming Spider-Man. That's why I don't want Tom Holland to quit now. Dude, you only just became Spider-Man. And maybe the next movie I'm imagining is, Schrodinger's sequel. I have my hopes up now, which I kind of didn't for No Way Home. I was pulling a real MJ. So in my head, the next movie is an easy home run. You've got me on board. Rosie, I love this boy. But maybe they could mess it all up. Maybe they bring back MJ and Ned too quickly. Maybe they undermine any or all of the things they fixed in No Way Home. Maybe they go too big when I just want something that feels like the Spider-Man I know. Or maybe they stick to the path alright, but the movie's just boring or average. I mean, the Disney Spider-Man cartoon isn't a bad interpretation of Spider-Man, it's just not a very well-made show. So, to recap, the current options. I desperately want them to make sequels about Peter now, and maybe they won't. Maybe they will, and they'll ruin it. Or maybe they will, and it won't be good anyway. But in the meantime, I've got a new Spider-Man movie to love. Insomniac's keeping at it, even if I can't see myself getting a PS5 anytime soon. Spider-Verse is getting a 2-parter sequel, holy crap. And Spider-Man Lotus looks awesome. Y'all heard of Spider-Man Lotus? Really professional looking fan film based on the exact 2 comics I would want to adapt together into a Spider-Man movie if they gave me the reins. Again, insert MJ, but I secured myself a Blu-ray, so I do have faith it'll be worthwhile. And freshman year, now that No Way Home is the point where, to me, Peter really becomes Spider-Man, I'm not really interested in going back to pre-Homecoming. But at the same time, it's been a good little while since there's been a Spider-Man cartoon show I've wanted to watch, so maybe if they throw enough budget and creative people at it, it'll turn out okay. So yeah, to go back to No Way Home, I don't know, it's pretty good, right?